if you haven't heard yet, this is not going to help the Harris campaign. So she has this town hall. Maria Shriver is there. It's Maria Shriver. You got Liz Cheney. You got Kamala Harris. You got a bunch of liberal and moderate Republicans who hate Donald Trump. Liz Cheney cast some doubts on the post-Roe GOP, and that's been taken by a lot of people to say that she is no longer pro-life. I think her position is certainly moderated. She would still consider herself pro-life, but she does think, like Donald Trump does, that some of the state-level laws have gone too far after the end of Roe. She doesn't think that getting rid of Roe was bad, but what came after Roe was not good, and that is Donald Trump's position, so I'm not going to attack her on that as some have. But there are some points here that need to be made about. I actually think Cheney and these Lincoln Project guys and these other supposed Republicans for Harris have actually probably cost Harris victory. To begin with, though, we got to set the stage here. They're at this town hall with Maria Shriver, formerly of NBC News. And someone in the crowd wants to know if they're going to have the chance to ask questions. I mean, this is, after all, a town hall. And what do you do at town halls? You have a discussion with the crowd. That's what a town hall is. People come to your event. They get to ask you questions. You answer them, but not at Kamala Harris's town hall.
You're not, unfortunately. We have some predetermined questions, and hopefully I'll be able to ask some of the questions that might be in your head. I hope so.
Predetermined questions. And hopefully I'll be able to ask some of the questions that are in your head. Yes, me, a wealthy woman from California who is there with Kamala Harris. Surely she walks enough in their shoes to ask the relevant questions for the middle class. And that gets to the problem here. There are a group of Republicans who are not conservatives. They had the R letter next to their name, but they were perfectly fine hanging out with the Democrats. A name you may not know, Sarah Longwell, with, I guess, the Bulwark now, Never Trump, Lincoln Project, liberal Republican, worked for the lobbying industry, not really a strategist, has claimed to be a strategist, not nearly as accomplished as how she's billed on TV, and she's liberal. A lot of these Republicans who have gone to Kamala Harris, you know where they have a common tie, and it's that they're not really pro-life. They're not really conservative. In fact, they kind of drip with disdain for what they think are the Hicks and Rubes of the Republican Party. And this is the problem with these anti-Trump Republicans that Kamala Harris is parading around. They no more relate to middle-class conservative concerns as Kamala Harris. They had an opportunity to tell Kamala Harris, you need to moderate your positions. Listen, Kamala Harris, for example, has come out on fracking and said, I support fracking. Now, there's been some nebulosity in the last 24 hours we're going to get to here, but she's come out and said, no, she's not for banning fossil fuel cars. She's not for banning fossil fuels. She's not for banning fracking. The environmental activists of America know Kamala Harris is lying through her teeth, and they will let her do whatever she needs to do to get elected. So Kamala Harris could have come out for expanded oil drilling, and they would have let her get away with it. Pro-abortion activists know beyond the shadow of a doubt Kamala Harris supports killing babies. Kamala Harris could have moderated her position, and they would have let her get away with it. But when you have all of these cheap dates coming your way from the GOP, why bother? Why bother moderating your position? Isaac Score, I may be Isaac mispronouncing your name. We have not met in person. Isaac Shore, I like the guy. I misspelled his name in my show notes today. He put up a tweet yesterday that got a lot of angry denunciation and reaction from the sorts of people he's talking about. Let me just read you what he wrote. You can, if you're subscribed to the show notes, text data to 33777, you can get it. Isaac writes, I felt this way for a while, but it really struck me watching the Sarah Longwell Kamala Harris event. Elite and never-Trumpers probably would have been more helpful to Democrats if they actually pushed them to moderate rather than just declaring their undying devotion for them. Would have been more politically effective, but a lot less monetizable. Says a lot about the divergence in Longwell because they're stated and revealed preferences. For the record, I've never voted for Trump and never will. Never Trumpers here reporting for duty, but I don't think publicly being in the tank for Democrats is the boon to them that so many ex-Republicans seem to think it is. Also, vote shaming is stupid and narcissistic. Longwell in particular is a particularly narcissistic bully who wants to shame anyone who says they don't like Trump but refuses to vote for Harris or defends Trump. You defend Trump, anything he's done or said, if you defend him, she'll attack you. She doesn't care. She's a cheap date for the Democrats in large part because she's a liberal, so she doesn't really care about Kamala Harris's liberal positions because she largely agrees with those positions and always has and is now very comfortable dripping with the disdain publicly she's always had privately for people in the party she used to belong to. The problem with Liz Cheney's endorsement of Kamala Harris as well is, she hasn't used any sort of leverage to get Kamala Harris to moderate any position that Kamala Harris has. You would have thought that Kamala Harris and could have cut it if she wanted Liz Cheney's support so badly that Liz Cheney could have leveraged that support to get Kamala Harris to moderate positions. Like one that's near and dear to Liz Cheney's heart, not getting rid of the filibuster. Nope. Cheap dates. These people aren't that good at politics, are they? None of them are that good at politics, it seems. Because in politics, you got something the other side needs, you leverage it for some sort of compromise in your clout. And you can get something out of it. None of these people tried. They're so anti-Trump that they just wanted to support Kamala Harris. And in the process, they're costing Kamala Harris her election. They're costing Kamala Harris the election because they provided Kamala Harris no incentive to move to the center on any issues. Whether they want to admit it or not, Donald Trump has moved more to the center than Kamala Harris has. Donald Trump has moved to the center on transgender surgery, same with talking the other day about parental consent. He's moved to the center on abortion, wanting the federal government to cover IVF and contraception, wanting to longer term to have an abortion than a fetal heartbeat ban. Donald Trump is more centrist when it comes to economic affairs. Donald Trump is more centrist when it comes to all sorts of governance issues than Kamala Harris. She could have gone that way. These people from the GOP who hate Donald Trump could have gotten her to moderate her positions, but they didn't even try. And now here's where we are. We're 2 weeks before the election, and what do they have left? Shame and bullying. Seems to be their favorite tactics. They will shame anyone if they decide they're voting for Donald Trump. You're standing for a man who's a white supremacist and insurrectionist. Well, really, you're standing for people who believe that boys can be castrated and that the Jews are bad. We don't believe it. Yes, you do. Yes, you do. Kamala Harris believes in taxpayer-funded gender transition surgeries for prisoners. Donald Trump is bad. Kamala Harris ain't all that. These people never bothered to try to get any level of moderation out of her. They could have leveraged it. They didn't. They were their own worst enemy here. And a lot of it is you got to understand that they're not driven by support for Kamala Harris. They're driven by hate. And when you're driven by hate, you're driven by emotion. And when you're driven by emotion, you behave emotionally and oftentimes irrationally, and you're not very thoughtful. You just got gut level reaction. That's why they're bullying. That's why they're shaming. They're not trying to make an articulable case for Kamala Harris. They're just, Donald Trump bad, Orange Man bad, must vote Harris, or you hate America. No. You like America, but I'll tell you what you like more. You like having money in your checking account to buy groceries. You like being able to take a family vacation somewhere without having to cut back. You like your fast fossil fuel burning vehicle that you can't use if you can't use your electric vehicle in North Carolina right now because there's no power. Oh, these Republicans, when the election is over, they're smugly going to claim it wasn't their fault. It's just these Americans are bigots. They're going to hate you. If you vote for Donald Trump, they're going to hate you. If a majority of Americans vote for Donald Trump, or if the Electoral College goes Donald Trump's way because a majority of people in the Electoral College vote for Donald Trump, they're going to hate you. They're going to hate the system. They're going to hate America. They're going to hate it all because they don't have any humility. They don't have any recognition of how to actually accomplish something. It's all passion and emotion for them at this point. And when it's all passion and emotion, your reason goes out the window. And again, it's why the drip, drip, drip has all been shame and bullying. It's their final card to play in this election. You hate America if you don't vote for Kamala Harris. You're fine with a dictator if you don't vote for Kamala Harris. You're fine with an authoritarian who will launch a coup and never leave office if you don't vote for Kamala Harris. Nobody believes it. They believe it. Nobody else does. And they can't relate to the people who don't believe it. They don't even want to try to understand the person who doesn't see it. And here's ultimately what it's all about. These people don't really believe in America. They believe in themselves. They don't believe in you. They believe in themselves. And your rejection of their argument for Harris is a rejection of them, and they're taking it personally. I have grave reservations about Donald Trump, as I do Kamala Harris. I frankly think January 6th is disqualifying. But how could I cast a vote for a man when I think January 6th is disqualifying? Because I think the entirety of Kamala Harris's record is disqualifying. I think Kamala Harris bailing people out of prison for burning down America is disqualifying. I think Kamala Harris thinking abortion until birth is disqualifying. I think Kamala Harris wanted to get rid of the filibuster so she can pack the Supreme Court with a bunch of progressives to undo generations of legal reforms is disqualifying. I think Kamala Harris wanted to get rid of the filibuster to pass abortion laws is disqualifying. I think all of Kamala Harris's career in office is disqualifying to her being president of the United States. And if I got to go with him or her, I'm going to go with him. Doesn't mean I endorse him. I don't particularly care for him. But I'll go with him because I actually believe in America. And so I know that in 4 years, Donald Trump will be term limited and go away. I actually believe in the strength of the institutional, constitutional republic of the United States to have checks and safeguards on Donald Trump. I actually believe that in 4 years, there will be another election in this country, and we'll do this all over again. The people who've decided they hate Donald Trump so much that they've got to vote for Kamala Harris, or the people saying, I don't believe America is good enough or strong enough to resist his worst impulses. And I happen to believe America does and is and will survive and will be fine because these people have decided they only believe in themselves. And so they're going to vote for Kamala Harris. They don't believe in you. They don't believe in this country, and they will shame you and bully you because if you don't go their way, you're rejecting them. And that's too big for their frail ego to get away with. And that, again, is why they need to be ignored.